Very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the IAB Insights series edition for September. Your kind of double dose for September this morning. Obviously, we've got two webinars coming up this month, and I'm very, very excited for today. From Insight to Impact, how brands can lead with first-party data in a new creative economy. And I must honestly say, looking at the chat box today, I'm surprised by how excited so many people are about first-party data. The number of people who popped through messages with lots of excited emojis and exclamation marks interests me. So Kudzai, welcome. Nice to have you here from Cape Town. I see that Karis is also here, about to take her laptop into a pool today. Says it's 35 degrees in Durban, and looking forward to hearing from some of the experts today. Llewellyn also said that he's here from an agency, I think it is, Aquila Zone. Nice to have you here, Llewellyn. And Sinen Shantla also says he's here from another agency as well, too, in Sandton. So it's nice to have all you guys with us on this webinar today. We're going to be exploring some really detailed insights on first-party data. So if it is something that you have been having conversations about, not only amongst your industry friends, but in your business units, learning about how we can leverage first-party data for customer success and ultimately for marketing and business results, then this is the Insight Series webinar to be part of. My name is Danilo Acquisto, and it's my absolute pleasure to be the person who's going to guide you along the conversation today. It is one that I'm personally quite interested in as well. It's a very hot topic in our industry at the moment. And I just wanted to say thank you so much to those who make these kinds of webinars available to our industry, free of charge. They had to be sponsored from somebody. This technical team who played these beautiful videos beforehand all cost money, and bringing these speakers onto screens and stuff requires quite a lot of coordination. So a big thank you to Ornico and the Special Effects Media team for bringing these webinars to life and supporting us on having these important conversations as an industry. There's so many wonderful guests from some of our industry titans here today as our attendees, and you're very welcome here to the conversation. We're lucky to be part of it and to engage in the topic today. So please do use the Q&A section on the bottom of your Zoom screen. There you can pop through any questions that come out during our webinar today. And over the next hour, we're going to be exploring how brands can develop data strategies that don't just meet privacy requirements, but also fuel creativity, strengthen customer trust, and drive long-term impact. You might be saying that that sounds impossible to do. It is possible to do. It is not just about complying with PUPI. It's about trying to deliver personalized messages to customers, which ultimately drives much better results in terms of your bottom line business performance as well. So we can all learn a thing or two from our titans today. We're also going to look at how brands and agencies can use this first-party data as a shared foundation for transparency, smarter collaboration, as well as sustainable growth. So before we begin, a couple of housekeeping notes that I'd love to share with you. The session will be recorded. And obviously, if you are subscribed to the IAB newsletter, a link to the full recording will be made available to you after the webinar itself. So don't worry about vigorously taking down notes. I often know how hard it is to write all those gems down and photograph screens and things. I know that that can be quite difficult. We will send the recording to those of you who are subscribed to the IAB newsletter. And if you're asking yourself, where the heck do I get the IAB newsletter? Then make sure that you get somebody from your business or industry to forward you a mailer. There you can obviously make sure that you hit the little subscribe button, and all of the detailed insights when these webinars happen on a monthly basis, all the dates are there. Any big industry news comes your way. It's a real privilege to be part of that mailing database. So do make sure that you get yourself onto that database, and then the webinar will be made available to you post the fact. I've mentioned that there will be a Q&A today. So just at the bottom of your screen, there's two little functions. Most of you have already found the chat, and I'm really grateful for that. Some of you seem to have found reactions as well too. So these little reactions that you see in the bottom of your screen, I've just given you guys a little party popper. If you found those, you're welcome to use those throughout the webinar today. But there's a Q&A box as well. We're only, now listen to me carefully, only going to take questions for our Q&A from the Q&A box, not from the chat. Often the chat can get quite crowded and busy, and so we do curate the questions for our Q&A panel in the Q&A box. So please do make sure that you use that Q&A section. Just as a little fun, you can use the little thumbs up emoji to make sure that you can tell me that you at least understand that you've got that difference, that you're going to use the Q&A questions for our panel discussion and keep the chat open to general banter and conversations about the industry. There we go. Love seeing those fingers, those thumbs up. Lovely stuff. Let me quickly launch a poll for you just to practice how we use these polls today. And I just wanted to play around with this for you, just to kind of get some insights from our audience today about some of the challenges that you're facing with first-party data. Just to give us some general understandings. Are you struggling to gather first-party data ethically, legally? Is your biggest issue enriching that first-party data, really working through the databases that you've got access to and ensuring that they're adding value? Is it activating that database? So for example, once you've gathered all that insights, you've enriched the data, is your struggle like, okay, well, how do we actually use this for our own success? And is the last one about measuring efficacy of that first party data? We'll give a few moments to vote in our poll. I see 30% of our audience have already voted. I'll wait till at least we get to a critical majority beyond 50%, and then I'll close the poll and let's reveal some of those results today. We're sitting on 45% of you having voted in the poll so far. Thank you so much. And we're just hit the 50% mark. I want to get to just over 50, sitting on 51. Perfect. Let's end the poll there for now. There will be more opportunities for you to vote in polls later on. But as you can see on your screen, it seems like a very even split, with the majority of you are saying that some of your biggest challenges are actually collecting first-party data. Very interesting. So some of those foundational elements of getting access to databases, getting people to opt into those databases before we get to enrich, activate, and measure. But then literally equal parts enriching and activating, and then the minority by only 2% saying that measuring is in fact your biggest challenge when it comes to first-party data. Really interesting. So I hope today our industry titans will be able to give you some insights across the board when it comes to trying to understand how to use first-party data in your work. We've got three incredible speakers today. I've had the privilege of spending some time with them in the green room, so to speak, behind the scenes, and they all are just such exceptional superstars in their world and can teach us a lot. Don't be too intimidated. They're all very friendly as well too, and are looking forward to sharing some insights. Our first speaker will be Tanya Field. She's going to be sharing quite a lot of insights today about the strategic value of first-party data. So if you're still undecided yet and just want to be convinced one more time that you need to pursue this as a real business priority, she's the person to listen to first. She's the co-founder and chief product officer at Novatiq, so she'll be coming to share some more insights with us. Then our second speaker after her will be Oti. Oti is a consumer data lead for Africa at Diageo. He brings more than 12 years of experience across ad tech and martech. So he really is a titan in our industry, and he's going to be focusing on measurement, attribution, and proving ROI. So those of you who are really struggling on those last two bits in terms of your first party data, he's hopefully going to unlock some new insights for you to move beyond that stage. And then lastly, the team who have been absolutely flourishing in this first-party data environment based on the size of consumer databases they have access to. Adelaide Carmel will be coming to share some insights with us. She is from Rainmaker Media. They also sponsored the Bookmark Awards this year, but the amount of first-party data that they have access to, I'm telling you, she wasn't voting on that first point in our poll. She was voting probably on the last. She's going to wrap up our speaker panel today to talk about from broad reach to precision, sharing how predictive audiences are built with data science, how ad waste can be reduced through precision targeting, and a few case studies as well about driving purchase intent. So it's really going to be showing you how, if you effectively apply a strategy with first-party data, the results that you can experience as part of your business as well too. So I'm very, very much looking forward to that. So they will all speak for 10 minutes each. We'll then host a Q&A where we'll answer all of your questions to our audience, well, our speakers for the day, and then we'll close things out from there. And also just a note that we'll advise you on what the next topic is coming up at the end of September. This month is a slightly strange month for the Insights. We've got 2 webinars in September. That's simply because the August webinar never proceeded. And so we've moved that August webinar into September, and there'll be another one at the end of September as well too. So stand by for those dates and details later on. All right, let's get started then with our first speaker for the day. I'm very, very excited to welcome her to the stage. Tanya is an absolute powerhouse in our industry, and I'm very excited to have her here today. She's the co-founder and chief product officer at Novatiq. She's a true product visionary. She drives innovation and driving innovation in identity solutions for the digital economy. She's got a career spanning digital transformation, telcos, as well as advertising. And she's pioneered consent technologies at Telefonica, developed Vodafone's global data platform, and contributed globally as a recognized voice on privacy and ethics in data. Hopefully you're not going to scare us away from this world, Tanya, but with your global experience in this world, I'm sure your expertise will give us a real sense of the scale and opportunity with first-party data. Welcome.
Thank you, Danilo. I'm very pleased to be here with you all today.
The stage is yours. We'll get your presentation up on screen. That'll be really wonderful. And then we'll get started on your presentation. The stage is yours. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you. Okay, so good morning, everyone. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about not only the strategic value of first-party data, but how working with Novatiq and our telco partners, specifically one in the region in South Africa, can help you activate that first-party data safely and securely and at scale. But first of all, let's consider what got us here in the first place. I'm sure I don't need to remind everybody of all of the ad tech ecosystem changes that we've been undergoing since 2017. But obviously, it is those changes that have made a significant difference in the landscape of data use in advertising. We used to be able to harvest lots of data on users and combine those to use them as third-party data sources in the ecosystem. But as we've gone through all of these changes from the Safari ITP in 2017 all the way through to the flip-flopping of Google around third-party cookies, we have nevertheless seen that third-party data is no longer viable, and we have seen the rise of first-party data yet again. And let's look then at how first-party data is influenced. Number one, regulation drove the demise in part of the third-party data and meant that we needed to focus more on being able to rely on the much richer source of first-party data. The reason that first-party data is much richer is because it comes from source. It relies on direct consent, so it meets the regulatory requirements. It covers a myriad of information, such as direct purchase history. I think we're going to hear more about that later from the Rainmaker team. It covers information around what people do and where they go and where they spend time on their web and app environments. And it also looks at consumer preferences, and it's related directly to specific first-party sources. And the reason that this is absolutely critical, but often difficult to activate because it's now disparate data, is because it goes beyond just being able to reach the right person at the right time in the right place. It basically enables us to layer sets of information that we know to be true to make sure that we deliver information and services that are user specific, that can be localized, that are authentic, that can be made culturally relevant, and that ultimately elevate the delivery of advertising from being simply a message being sent to a user to what we call at Novatiq advertising as a service. And that is where we are able to have a consistent dialogue with a user as they navigate through devices to deliver a better customer user experience and increase return on investment for brands and advertisers, because we consistently know who the user is and we leverage the benefit of their interactions with a service or advertising to effectively create a dialogue with the user. And first-party data is critical to enable us to do that. But gathering first-party data is not always as easy as it may seem at first look. And I think we saw that in the results of the poll that was run earlier on. It is all around ensuring that you have a relationship with the consumer that enables you to build trust so that they are happy to provide you with the consent to use and collate that first-party data. And it's essential that those actions for consent are underpinned by two things. Number one, it's absolutely required to ensure that you deliver a privacy by design solution, so that when the customer gives you their consent, they can be absolutely sure that none of their data will either be misused, passed to somebody that hasn't got the right to use it, or be able to be harnessed by somebody else without them knowing. And secondly, there absolutely needs to be a clear value exchange for the user. Often people think that this might be a monetary value. That's not the case. The value exchange needs to be something that will deliver an improved service to the user. It may be a value exchange that's monetary, but mostly it's about improved service, the fact that they know that their data is not going to be misused, and that they will get a better customer experience through the process of that giving of their consent. Ultimately, all consumers want to know that their information is used sensibly and without any misuse. And that's why Novatiq believes that the telco is a critical component of the first-party data revolution. The telco sits at the heart of every digital transaction and is therefore an obvious choice to assist in this changing ad tech world, because the telco has an absolute link to the user for every transaction they make. The telco is used to having a privacy-led data architecture. With Novatiq, no PII is shared, and yet the telco first-party data is able to be used to deliver audiences in the ecosystem. The telco is able to verify their own ID generated by the publisher or brand. This means that an ID, as the user enters the system, is generated, consented by the telco network, because nobody other than the telco is able to link that user at the point of use. And that has a secondary benefit. The secondary benefit is that nobody invests more in anti-fraud practices than the telco themselves. So any ID verified by the telco is also 99.9% guaranteed to be linking to a real human being. It means that the telco is able to allow publishers and brands to recognize repeat users by knowing it is the same user, but not knowing who the user is. So this is not logged on authentication. This is simply verifying that it's the same user. And that's critical if you're looking to develop first-party data across a number of different titles within your publisher or brand environment. Because you need to know that it's the same user. You don't necessarily have to know the details about the user themselves. And obviously, because the telco is real time, they are able to ensure that audiences are activated in real time at the point of entry into a service. And this means that the consumer benefits because they have control, they have transparency, and they are absolutely guaranteed to receive relevant advertising. In the South African digital landscape, this is critical because we are undergoing an accelerated digital transformation. It's a mobile-first digital infrastructure, which makes it obvious that telcos are able to deliver a significant proportion of the targeting capability. Everyone is interested in AI. There's a significant growth in video and in online shopping, and people are interested in culturally relevant storytelling and and social commerce. Next one, Yogita. So it's critical that within the South African environment, as well as way beyond, we're able to use a simplified data activation framework to activate first-party data, to collect it, to verify it, to enrich our advertising, and ultimately, to activate first-party data. And it's also critical that this is done safely and securely, and that we're able to deliver improved match rates. So at Novatiq, with our telco partners, we work with publishers and brands to collect the signals that are either one-time or verifying existing first-party cookies. We verify those signals using the telco network. That means we can deliver user recognition and validate ad requests in real time. We enrich those ad requests with telco first-party data, audiences, and/or publisher and brand first-party data-based audiences. And then we're able to deliver those to the buy-side platforms so that those audiences can be activated in real time without any PII or any data ever appearing in the ecosystem. And we have some great examples of how this has worked really well in other markets. We work with Amazon Prime in the GCC region across MENA. And effectively, they use always-on ad deterministic audiences that are from our telco partners in that region because they deliver campaign performance at scale. We're able to leverage the benefit of the knowledge of users within the telco network to enable Amazon to understand if the users are existing Prime customers or not, and then target them using our Hyper ID system in accordance with the types of campaigns that they would deliver based on whether they're an existing user or not. And the results have been tremendous. They've had a 25% increase in viewability. They've had a reduction in campaign cost of 70%. Their CTRs have improved by 100%, and their video campaign completion rates have increased by 54%. And on top of that, and perhaps most importantly, they've had a 100% increase in engagement. And this is because they're able to get the right message to the right person at the right time when they're in the right place. And that's absolutely critical for them. It's also because the signals are inherently anti-fraud. So a lot of for the fraud-based bot traffic is cut out, which helps drive those improvements in performance. And then secondly, we have Bupa, who we work with again consistently in the same region. And there we have 5 custom audiences that we've built using the telco first-party data to drive healthcare product awareness. And they have, using those audiences, and they continue to experience CTR levels that are 90% better than the KPI target. And they're able to work with us flexibly, to build custom audiences that meet their demands as and when they have new campaigns that they want to bring to market. So as far as we're concerned at Novatiq, we think there are 5 key points to take away. Stay ahead in a rapidly evolving ad tech landscape. Embrace first-party data as a creative tool. Earn consumer trust through transparent and ethical data use. Partner with telcos for ID verification and scalable activation, and drive performance through meaningful personalization.
Tanya, this was super insightful. Thank you so much. You guys are clearly doing a lot of really important, meaningful, data-rich world in the background, and I'm sure pens can't write as fast as you're giving us some of those key insights. So what I thought we should do is let's try and share a poll with the audience today, just to try and get a sense of where their minds are at around customer data. So obviously, just to get a sense of how far this insight has kind of gained into their businesses, let's ask the question, when you use your own customer data to target or re-engage audiences, what percentage of those audiences can you successfully match? Just to get us a sense of your own capabilities here, when you use your own customer data to target or re-engage audiences, what percentage of those audiences can you successfully match? We've currently got about 20% of our audience having voted. Tanya, I'll let you know when we get to at least just past halfway, and then we'll answer that. Your options are less than 20%, 20 to 40%, 40 to 60%, 60% plus, or this is not applicable to me. There are quite a few of you who have voted for this is not applicable to me, 23% of you so far. We're sitting on 39%, 40% of our audience, and there are well over 100 attendees on our webinar today. So it's nice to have you all with us. And I'm glad that you're here, part of our Insight series today. Thank you for joining us on such a, what I suppose could be quite technical, intimidating conversation, but a critically important one about first-party data and its impacts. Alrighty, I see we've reached our critical mass. I've just gotten to at least half of our audience. Is the rest of the half of you who haven't voted in our poll, are you technologically struggling to find the poll, or just too nervous to answer the question? I promise you it's anonymous. Let's share some of those results with you today. The majority is saying it's just not applicable to them. Tanya, how interesting is that? The other two were 26%, saying 40 to 60% were able to successfully be matched. 20 to 40%, 22% of the audience said 20 to 40% were able to be successfully matched, and only 10% said less than 20%, and also same thing, 10% of 60% plus. Does this surprise you?
It does surprise me, actually, because the industry average is between 30 to 40%. So, I mean, I guess we're sort of falling in that section, but 40 to 60% is quite incredible in today's markets, given the demise of all the different identifiers. So it's fairly unusual and doesn't is very different in terms of trend to many of the other countries in the globe. So good to see that that's still the case, but I suspect that needle will move over time.
Or perhaps all of those voters in that poll were coming from a particular organization that's probably Rainmaker Media, has access to all that first-party data and has done attribution. But thank you so much. That was really, really good insights. Thank you guys so much. And Tanya, thank you for your insights today. I really, really appreciate your time. We'll be in our Q&A later on, so if you guys have any questions for Tanya, please do pop them through in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. As a reminder, we'll only be taking questions from the Q&A box and not from the chat. And we take our attention now to our second speaker, moving on to a conversation about measurement and attribution in a privacy-first world. I'll say that again, measurement and attribution in a privacy-first world. We welcome Ukubeyinje. Oti is the consumer data lead for Africa at Diageo. He brings more than 12 years of experience across ad tech and martech, having held senior roles at like big tech companies like Meta, Terragon, and Opera Software. He now leads consumer data strategy for Diageo Africa with a strong focus on privacy-first marketing and measurement. Oti, the stage is officially yours, but I think you and I need to stay together because I think you have a poll for our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Danilo. And good morning to everyone, or afternoon, depending on where you are. Sure, I think we can jump straight into the poll.
Cool, here it comes. The question we're asking you today is, which of these flavor profiles is more common amongst South Africans? Fruity and vibrant, sweet and balanced, smoky and bold, spicy and energetic. Which of these flavor profiles is more common among South Africans? While everyone's voting, do you want to tell us why you're asking us such a strange question on a Thursday?
I know, considering all of this has been heavy about data and more technical stuff, it would be good to get people prepared for Friday, because I imagine they will end up with at least a cocktail, one of these ones based on their flavor profiles by the end of tomorrow. So yeah, it's getting us.
And some context, clearly there will be an answer in here where we know whether we're aligned with the majority or not. Where did you get this insights from, and how was this insight relevant in your world?
Moving very fast, but I'll get there right after the answer.
Okay. I won't. All right, we've got just over 60%. It seems like 60% of our audience have voted in your poll and only 45 in the previous one. The other one intimidated our audience, it looked like. Today, fruity and vibrant and sweet and balanced seems less intimidating. So here we go. Let's share those results. Quite balanced view. So which of these flavor profiles is more common among South Africans? 36% of you was our majority, saying that spicy and energetic was the most favorite profile. And then the second to that, as you can see on your screen here, was a tie between fruity and vibrant and smoky and bold, with most saying that we're certainly not sweet and balanced. What are you saying? South Africans aren't sweet and balanced? Oti, will you reveal those results for us?
Interested. Yeah, I think it kind of really helps understand. A lot of people give their thoughts, but when we go by what we've seen from what people are consuming with us, fruity and vibrant is the most common flavor profile we've seen out there. And we know this because just from our recent activation or event held in South Africa, Johnny Walker Afro Exchange, it was an opportunity for us to really extend our hands in using first-party data to understand consumers, especially from their flavor profile, linking that to what kind of cocktail they will drink and how we'll feature in that experience. So what we did was we asked consumers who were getting into the event to complete a flavor profile quiz, and then they'll get a complimentary cocktail at the bar. Now, of those responses, as you've seen, fruity and vibrant was the most common one. So that sort of saw a lot of people going for cocktails that match that profile, such as the Bramble and the Peach Highball cocktail. Now, what we've also seen is this mirrors itself in trade, in some of the other events we've hosted. These are some of the most requested cocktails as well. So even more interesting is that when we've done a dipstick and looked at search trends and all that, the most common cocktail flavor for consumers in South Africa is not just the fruity, but strawberry itself being one of the very common flavor requests there. So what we're able to do with this data so far is being able to, on the one hand, just understand our consumers better and retarget them accordingly with something that is more relevant, but take it a step further and explore how we can use that data to find more lookalike audiences on the relevant platforms in order for us to target and expand our reach, acquiring more relevant people and giving them content that is most relevant for us. So it's just a starter to help us understand the value of acquiring first-party data, applying it in some of the most unexpected places, even offline, in physical spaces beyond the media use cases that we're all used to. Why is this very important to us? Because at Diageo, our mission here is to make every experience with Diageo better with data. And we're very, very keen and immersed in delivering on this mission. So at every point in time, whether it's digital, physical experiences, content, in every other way, we try to, as much as possible, employ the use of first-party data and even extend that to second, third-party data and commercial data across the business. To do this, we've had to be very careful in how we craft out an end-to-end strategy, and this will be the recommendation to us brands, or to most brands. As you would imagine, for digital first businesses is a lot easier. You're able to pretty much think about financial services, e-commerce. Data acquisition is already baked into their business model because they're mostly D2C in nature. They deal with consumers directly. But when you look at it from a CPG perspective or our beverage perspective, we're mostly dealing through outlets, through third parties, through customers, distributors, wholesalers, retailers, and so on and so forth. So we don't have as much direct interaction with consumers as you would find. So we have to be more deliberate in how we get closer to consumers to acquire data from them and bring them into our own environment or community. So that end-to-end strategy is crucial. And to do this, the first thing is laying the right foundations and establishing the right conditions to win. So this cuts across things like getting the right tools in place, getting all the budgets approved and agreed on, getting stakeholder commitments to not just say, yes, we'll do it, but actually follow through, cuts across legal, cuts across technology and innovation teams, all the way to brand managers, and how we actually drive that into trade through commercial teams as well. Then the second part is being very, very clear and definitive on how you're going to acquire that first party data, right? So could it be through consumer promotions, through events, through our sampling activations, or just digital campaigns overall? We then utilize that to enhance all of that, and how we also enhance the data we collect. So through enrichment, beyond just that initial collection, how are we also enriching? Then you look at it to activation to say, once we've acquired data, either in the most basic state or in the very enriched state, how do we bring it to life? So you're looking at media activation, you're looking at true CRM, you're looking at how you do that in digital spaces. So for example, e-commerce websites or our own brand websites, or even physical spaces like the example I've just shown earlier. It could cut across retail, events, and how you're utilizing that data. Then you move on to how you measure the impact of that, which I'll touch on in a bit. But that once you are able to clearly define your measurement tactics, how you're reporting back to the business and attributing the sources of all those impacts, the final goal is how do you automate and scale that to ensure that it's pretty much a rinse and repeat and it becomes business as usual. I think the first thing I would say is just zooming in on defining your data acquisition and utilization objectives. What we would double down on our end is to say, align with our agencies, what are our acquisition goals? So we typically do very intense audits to understand what is our current capability, what are the opportunities for us to collect data across the business, across channels, and then we set acquisition goals. That doesn't just sit with us, it becomes our problem as well as our agency partners' problem as well. So are we going from 0 to 1 million or 5 million over a given period of time? Secondly is what depth of data are we trying to collect here? I think Tanya has spoken earlier around collection and all the building blocks you need to put in place in order to drive acquisition very effectively, as well as enrichment. So for us, we started, for example, 3 key data points. We need a name at least. We need a way to contact the person back. Is it phone number or email? And because of our industry, we need to know that we're speaking to the right age categories, or LPA plus. So we tend to collect date of birth as well. So just having these 3 in place for known profiles is very useful. It doesn't mean we don't also double down on acquiring unknown first-party profiles through cookies and all that, but the known is very much more important to us. And then aligning with the agency's key KPIs, like how do we, key goals, like how do we keep driving down the cost of acquisition so we can scale that significantly. So these are some of those things you would align with your agency depending on the sector you're operating. Then you move into activation or utilization objectives. For us, it cuts across these 5, and it could be more expansive, and it also differs depending on the industry you're playing at as well. Within AcBev, for us is how do we improve media ROI, ensuring that at every point in time, what percentage of our data is using data, what percentage of our media is using data, sorry, and what is the incremental benefit or impact that is having on our media, either reducing cost or improving ROI on that. Increased value from CRM. Basically, how do we go from standard one-to-one messaging to something that is more personalized, something that is more relevant to the consumers and drives better results from us from every outreach? So how do we go from 10% or 5% engagement rates to 20, 30%? What is it we need to do with data to improve that experience, to improve the way people interact with our emails, our messages, and so on and so forth? How do we use data to grow digital commerce? How do we drive on and off trade ROI? And also, how do we make experiential work harder for us as brands, especially in this sector? We invest a lot in events and experiences. Sometimes it's touch and go, but through data, through first-party data, acquiring or activating it, we're able to sweat it out and get consumers to experience more and leave there with a higher purchase intent off the back of that. Now, once you have that in place, I guess the big question is, so how do we measure this? How do we show ROI? How do we show impact? Is one of those key areas to that you struggle with as a marketer, proving to the business how if we're going to invest so much in acquiring and utilizing data, how do you prove to the business that there's ROI behind that? I think this just sort of captures 3 approaches that you would typically use, or at least what we adopt within Diageo as well. We take that pre-post analysis approach where you would look at what is the state of things and what does it look like after we have done that data-driven activation. You would typically do this when the variables are very limited and controllable. So for example, if you run activations on a week-on-week or month-on-month basis and everything stays the same, if you introduce the use of data in one of those activities, you're able to say, okay, the variables are not that many, everything was the same, so we can see the impact before and after data, and we're able to report on that. You also have the optimization approach. This is mostly used in media, where you're able to say, I'm going to run something concurrently, and I'll see between a control and a treatment audience or group, what is the difference? What is the impact? This is where there are a lot of variables, so you pretty much want to control or manage a control and a treatment group. So you do that mostly in media, when you apply data for creative optimization, when you apply data for audience targeting, and so on and so forth. And then lastly, you look at incrementality. This is basically saying, what is the incremental difference between my treatment audience and my control audience, right? Assuming that I also have control of the variables. So you can do this with a situation where you have 2 audiences. You're showing them the same thing, but, you have 2 audiences. One sees the ad, one doesn't see the ad. What is the impact of the one that saw on the one that saw the ad. Did they spend more? Did they convert quicker, and so on and so forth? So basically, it's see versus didn't see. Unlike optimization, where it is, I saw version A and I saw version B type of thing. So in a nutshell, we kind of apply a lot of these principles. And as a CPG, like I said earlier, we want to put things in place to bring consumers closer to the brand itself directly. And that is one of such examples as we will see from the My Guinness program that we've launched globally within Diageo. It's heavily running right now in Europe, and we're sort of extending that into Africa as well. But you'll see that we've created this membership program. Typically, people will just interact with Guinness in bars or in stores, but with the membership program, we're able to acquire consumers directly into that, keep them within a CRM-driven community where we communicate with them on a regular basis via email and other channels. But more importantly, it's the value they get from being members of that program. You'll have access to new product releases, early access to season tickets and events, and so on and so forth. What we've seen from running this first-party driven membership program is that consumers who have opted in are 2.4 times more valuable to us based on their annual purchases, especially from our physical and digital stores, based on those who just come in as guests, touch and go, right? So we've seen better lifetime value from members. We've seen very, very high engagement rates from consumers who are actually opted in members of the program. In addition to that, there's regular engagement with them. We're able to track and see the retention rates around that versus just people who are not opted into this program as well. So I guess in a nutshell, the key takeaways from all of this is basically saying, in order to maximize the use of first-party data within your business and with your agency partners, the first thing is to ensure that you have built out an end-to-end strategy around data acquisition and the utilization cases for that. In addition, how do you ensure that you are aligned with the objectives you're measuring with your agency? And more importantly, the way you will measure needs to be clearly defined from the onset so that everybody's on the same page and you're able to report on the ROI of that. And then lastly, you would pretty much make that become business as usual through a learn and scale agenda as well. Thank you very much for your time. And I hope this was very helpful for you guys.
Oti, thank you. It was more than helpful, but it also got us wondering whether the return on our investment will be delicious drinks at the other side of a good conversation next time in person, Oti. That's the most important question we have to ask.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, you speaking to South African audience is one of our favorite pastimes and hobbies. But Oti, thank you very, very much for sharing some of those insights about your work that you do. It's really, really insightful. And I'm very excited to wrap up our conversation today with another powerhouse and last of our speakers before we get to your Q&A. And unfortunately, always being the last speaker, Adelaide, always means that you are under a lot of pressure to get things done on time. And so if you have your 1.5 or 1.25 times WhatsApp speed voice on go, then the stage will officially be yours. And Adelaide, it's really, really exciting to have you with us today. You're going to close us off just telling us a bit more about predictive audiences and data science, as well as how we're reshaping retail targeting with Rainmaker Media. Would love to hear your insights. So Adelaide, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I'll try and go hyperspeed on this one. So as Danilo said, my name's Adelaide Carmel. I'm the Senior Digital Strategist at Rainmaker Media. We are the retail media network for the ShopRite Group. So as he's alluded to, we've got a lot of interesting data that we can showcase to you guys today. And I'll be showing you how we're using data science to essentially model smarter retail audiences. But let's start with, why do we need smarter audiences? The hard truth is that in 2024, retail advertisers wasted over $155 million in digital ad spend, nearly double than 2023. So if we don't fix these leaks that we have with ad wastage, scaling media just means that we're scaling inefficiencies. So it's really not about media performance, it's about protecting the margins of our businesses. The biggest culprit behind this is poor targeting. So the formula is quite simple, as a lot of people have said before already. It's right time, right person, right message. But even step one is actually a little bit harder than it looks. So if we can't even reach the right person, nothing else really matters. The real value, or there is still a lot of value in interest-based targeting from platforms like Meta or TikTok, but let's be brutally honest, it only goes so far. They only define interests at a surface level. So someone who's interested in wine might just be lumped into a single bucket. But we all know that wine lovers aren't that simple. Some people prefer a wooded Chardonnay, others are die-hard Bordeaux blend drinkers. Try saying that 5 times fast. So this level of nuance just doesn't exist in standard platform targeting, and that's where smarter audience modeling comes in. You can even take, for example, dishwashing. Just because someone's bought Sunlight or bought into the Sunlight brand doesn't mean they actually own a dishwasher. They might have just bought that, green dishwashing liquid. So what you're seeing here is how we build custom audiences using actual purchase behavior. We can segment shoppers down to those who buy dishwashing tablets from those who buy dishwashing liquid and serve messaging that's relevant to them, meaning that we're wasting fewer impressions on our campaigns. The other thing as well is that not every shopper is just new, loyal, or lapsed. Real customer behavior lives in the gray areas in between. Some customers might be almost loyal, they just need a little bit of a nudge, and others might be at risk of lapsing before they completely disappear. Kellogg's actually used this smarter segmentation to drive real influence, specifically focusing on those in-between customer segments. Powered by our data from Rex, their Better Breakfast campaign managed to convert 19% of their at-risk lapsing customers into loyalists, 14% of their attention-needed customers into loyalists, and 10% of their loyal customers into brand champions, really showcasing how smarter segmentation can drive even better business results for you. Now, in what I just showed you, we spoke about targeting customers based on their past purchases, like someone who's bought a single malt whiskey, for example. But that didn't always mean that they were ready to buy again. If you just bought a bottle of single malt whiskey, you're likely going to be out of market for at least a week or two, maybe 3, depending on your drinking habits. And that's where our purchase intent audiences come in. We basically asked ourselves the question, what if we could predict what customers want to buy before they even start shopping? A purchase intent audience for us is a precision segment that is built using data science to predict who's most likely to buy and when. Specifically, it identifies customers likely to make a purchase in a given subcategory within the next 30 days based on their individual shopping behavior and timing signals. Our goal here is really to drive better return on ad spend and a better customer experience because they'll only see ads for products when they're ready to buy that product. Our purchase intent model is a very advanced machine learning model that predicts this behavior and the likelihood of rebuying into a product category. It looks at individual products and models based on past shopping behavior all the way into the current customer's need states. It means it understands not just what you buy, but why you buy it and when you will buy it. It factors into a consideration things like seasonality, price segments, trends, and even price sensitivity. So for example, you might buy a certain brand when it's on special, but otherwise you'll buy something else. The result is purchase probabilities down to the individual SKU. And because these are real probabilities, we can target with greater precision, measure effectiveness consistently, and keep improving campaign performance over time. What does this mean and what does it actually look like in practice? Well, let's take a look at the shopper's history of buying sweet potatoes. At first, when we only take into consideration one of the sweet potato offerings, there's not really much to go on and there's not much to predict. But as we add more purchases, a clear rhythm starts to emerge. And we can now start modeling their behavior of buying sweet potatoes down to a buying cycle of roughly every 15 days. So this curve essentially represents their probability of them needing to buy sweet potatoes again, and you can see it peaking at the 15-day mark. Other customers, other categories, and other need states all follow different rhythms, and it's these curves that power our purchase intent modeling, helping us to predict when someone is likely to buy again, not just what they've bought before. Of course, in reality, our purchase intent model is a far more complex data science model under the hood, of which the previous slide was just a simplified example of how it works. Our model was trained on a truly massive data set of over 2.6 billion data points, 2.5 million daily transactions, and nearly 8 million Checkers customers over a time period of 2 years. All this data was engineered into statistical markers of behavior, seasonality, trend, and so much more, and fed into very hungry machine learning models. The result is an unmatched insight into when a customer is likely to need a product. It's not just about relevance anymore, it's about timing. We're really entering a new era in retail marketing where we don't just show the right product to the right person, we show it at the right time when we know they're likely to need it. That's really when relevance becomes influence. So a little bit about the model itself and its performance metrics. So in essence, the model is correct about 70% of the times that it predicts a customer will repurchase into a particular need state category. And above and beyond that, the model is able to identify a third of all customer repurchases, meaning that in terms of regular shopping, about a third of any member's basket, we can routinely predict what is going to be in it. And to prove that it works, we ran several A/B tests. We essentially took our extra savings database and gave a campaign-related article list to our data science team, who used the PI model to generate relevant audiences. And then we compared that against our first and third-party audiences and evaluated performance based on return on ad spend. And the results really do speak for themselves. What's immediately clear is that our first-party audiences outperformed our third-party audiences across all campaigns. So in this example here, what you can see is the performance on our first-party audience. If you'd used a budget of R1,000,000 to get the same revenue on our first-party audiences, you would have only had needed to use a budget of R176,000, essentially a 6 times better performance with first-party audiences. But where it gets really exciting is with our purchase intent audiences, which consistently delivered significantly higher return on ad spend, confirming the model's ability to accurately identify shoppers who are most likely to convert. So in this example, again, you can see R1,000,000 to generate revenue against our third-party audience. To generate the same amount of revenue you would have with a third-party audience, you would only need R60,550 in ad spend to generate the same amount of revenue. Essentially, this means smarter targeting, better performance, and greater value for every rand spent. Just another example of a campaign we ran, you can see that to generate the same amount of revenue you would have had for R1,000,000 against a third-party audience, you would have only needed 15,200 Rand with our purchase intent audience, performing even better than the previous campaign. So this is all obviously broad retail offering. What about specific, sort of FMCG products? Well, this is where Kellogg's came in, and we saw that if we had spent 500,000 Rand to generate a certain amount of revenue with our first-party audiences, we would have only needed 103,200 Rand to generate the same amount of revenue with our purchase intent audience. And last but not the least, my absolute favorite is a case study from our Checkers XXL campaign, the first week we ran this. So our ROAS for our third-party audience was 32 cents for every Rand spent. Our first-party audiences performed 10 times as well, so we would only need 99,400 Rand to generate the same amount of revenue. But our purchase intent blew all of this out the water, equating to an 83 times better performance on ROAS, meaning for only 12,000 Rand, we could have generated the same amount of revenue on what we would have had for our third-party audience against R1,000,000. And the purchase intent model hasn't just made waves internally and with our clients, it's also been recognized by the industry. And these awards are really more than trophies. For us, they're proof that this model is both innovative and effective. In fact, we estimate that within the next year, our purchase intent audiences can help reduce ad wastage of our campaigns by up to 50%, potentially saving hundreds of millions of rands while still driving growth and impact at scale. So now that we can predict purchase intent, what about those moments of discovery, of something new entering the basket? That's the next frontier for us. This is where our novelty model comes in. It's essentially designed to predict what a customer is most likely to find appealing from products they've never purchased before. We're actively testing it right now, and if purchase intent helped us master timing, novelty will help us master relevance. Together, these models move us from reacting to behavior into shaping it. And this really is the future of retail media and audiences. It's precision, prediction, and influence. Thank you so much.
Absolutely nailed it. Thank you so much, Adelaide. Like really, really cool insights. I mean, what you guys are doing at Rainmaker is obviously making a lot of noise. You are certainly making it rain for the customers that you do work with as well too. And I know that a lot of the audience members, especially in our industry, do find themselves asking the question, well, it's really wonderful that you have access to all of this stuff. All brands want to build these kind of data sets and do basically what you're doing. They don't obviously have the scale of audiences in the country that you have within the ShopRite group, but they do definitely have the interest in wanting to kind of gather that kind of databases and start mining and using that data to deliver, I suppose, a more precision-focused data strategy based on that first-party data that they can gather. And you guys are leading the way in terms of how to be able to build that. So thank you for sharing some of those insights with us today. I think everybody dropped a few mics and said boom, or they walked away from their laptop saying, I resign, I'm out at the end of all of that. But I'm sure we can share some insights with our audience today. So yeah, let's get into a Q&A. I'm going to invite Tanya and OT back onto screen for us to answer a couple of questions. Most of you seem quite shy in our Q&A. I do have about 9 questions asked here, but I do want to see if there are any more from our audience that you guys would like to ask today. And please don't be shy. To be honest, this conversation is intimidating. There are some that are absolutely leading the way, and there's some that haven't even started, and this is like really sitting right at the foundation phase. And I don't want you to be shy to ask any of the questions that you have for our panelists today about where to begin. So please do share some of those questions as we go. So to our panelists, thank you so much for joining us today and for being part of our discussions. We've learned a lot. And I know those of you who are keen to get access to the recording, it will be made available on the IAB's email database. So if you're officially on that database, we'd love to share that with you. Let's start with a question here. I'll go in chronological order. It's an anonymous question that I'll say answered live here. Is first-party data a replacement or a complementary to cookie and GPS data in advertising? Is first-party data replacement or complementary to cookie and GPS data in advertising? Does anybody want to take a stab at that? Tanya?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I think it starts off complementary, but I think we're in a world where it's complementary at the moment, but we're migrating more to first-party data as an alternative over time because it performs so much better. So necessarily, I think we would be looking for it to replace over time. But right now, it's a complementary scenario.
OT, are you seeing that in your business as well too? Is Diageo as well too betting on that solution?
Absolutely. I think as of today, when we think about the number of profiles we've acquired and split that between known and unknown, unknown, which is the cookie-based data, dwarfs the number of known profiles. So we cannot ignore the importance of cookie to our business today, but we're increasingly scaling the share of known just simply because we need to be able to also get out of walled environments and have good control of the way we interact with our consumers as well. So I agree with Tanya. It's playing complementary, but the goal for most brands, I believe, is to have full control of their audiences and move into that less dependence on cookies.
Now to our next question, which I'm going to target at you, Adelaide, and it'll sound like not a stab, but it'll sound like an opportunity for you to be able to respond to that. Because on the one hand, OT is sharing this idea that it's something that all businesses want because it's more precise, it's more focused, it's more personalized, it drives better results. But on the other side, you have audiences who don't want the data to be mined in this way. People don't want to be known at this kind of level and understood in this way. So the next anonymous question came through that says, how can brands balance personalization with privacy when using first-party data creatively? And I'm sure this is a challenge for you as a business as well too.
Yeah, I think I would like to challenge you on the fact that I understand that there is obviously a cohort in South Africa that don't want to share their first-party data, but I always look at it in the light of I would rather share my first party data and have more relevant advertising shown to me than see a whole bunch of gaming ads for games I'm never going to play because I'm not interested in it. But I think it all comes down to trust. And it comes down to building a relationship with the consumer. That's what we try to do. So give the consumer full control over their data, and how, sort of it's being used, etc. But it really comes down to trust and building that relationship for me.
Fabulous, Adelaide. Thank you. I know we are 1 minute over time, and the most of you can only schedule the exact hour of your time today. So if you need to hop off, I will give some more details now about the next webinar. But I had one important follow-up to Adelaide's question that I think can wrap up our discussion for today, that both Oti and Tanya can take a stab at, which is we would probably agree. Consumers do want to have more personalized and relevant advertising served their way, so that their journey and experience online is great. But on the same time, big tech companies are obviously being targeted for the fact that they're reiterating narratives that because I watch something algorithmically, you're serving me more of that same thing. I'm creating a habit within my own behavior as opposed to serving me new things. Should we have that as a risk? Are we quite worried about the amount of psychological manipulation that we're seeing in first-party data and advertising? That's personal, that you know me so well that you're serving me things that you know that I need, even though I don't know that I need them based on the data modeling. Last thoughts from Oti and Tanya.
Happy to go first. I think moderation and control is the key word here, right? So one, educating consumers on the use of their data and giving them the ability to control or restrict that. So you have requests around turn off cookies, or delete my data and so on and so forth. But not just having those solutions, but letting consumers know that they are there and they can use them when they want. Ultimately, you see that most times when you turn this thing off, the experience is awful, but it doesn't mean that it should be the default. So consumers should always have the option to turn it on and off.
Tanya, last thoughts from you.
Yeah, and I think my view is that we need to be really careful about the line that we're treading between what we understand about the consumer and what we infer and what we use psychology for, because I think we verge into being very scary for consumers. And I think that's a line that is not being tread very well at the moment with the emergence of AI, which is not being managed very carefully in terms of that whole experience. And we need to look very carefully to make sure that we don't go into those areas that are scary.
Beautiful. So basically pursue, but do so with moderation and with ethics at the center of all of this to ensure that it benefits both the consumer and the business owner, to ensure that they are limiting their wasted in ad spend, but at the same time ensuring the consumer also has a good experience online, that we're not manipulating psychology of customers, that actually are trying to make their lives better in the end.
Exactly.
Beautiful way to wrap up. Speakers, thank you so much for your time today. It brings us to the end of our session. Really cool recaps and insights today. We're all honored to have all of you join us. Adelaide, Oti, and Tanya, thank you so much for making time with us today. You guys are very, very busy people and deep in spreadsheets and data mines and data safes. And we wish you all the best cracking out of those and helping us all build a better data privacy in the world around us, and obviously a safer environment to share that first party data. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. What I've taken away so far is that first party data is no longer about compliance. It really is about creativity and trust. In a privacy-first world, aligning your KPIs and leveraging that first-party data makes measurement and attribution stronger, not weaker. And that predictive modeling helps us move from broad reach to precision, reducing waste and driving intent-based engagement amongst audiences, which is really, really what we're here to try and do. Marketing, ROI, all needs to be measured. We do understand that. We'll catch you at the end of the month.